we're going into the early part of my testimony where I go into one job after another and it's just devastatingly against you. You wonder, where is everybody? Joe loved the races. I was working for a guy named Herbie from Spiral Steel, and he's messed me out of all kinds of money and cheated me, but I got nowhere else to go. So Joe loved the races. Herbie, my boss, had trouble finding good union labor. No wonder. He kept trying to trip up things and cheat the way they were supposed to be done. He tried shortcuts that backfired and cost thousands, which cost me thousands. The company was in financial trouble once again. So Herbie took on a partner. Joe was the new foreman now for union jobs. The partners would advance him money to do a job, and he would man the project with a crew till it was finished. That was the intent. Well, what actually happened? One time Joe disappeared when he was advanced a large sum of money. We found out three things at the same time. Joe bought a racehorse. He was in the hospital with 2 broken legs, and we had partners in our business that scared me. Supposed to use that money to pay the men to do the job. You think we didn't find out? Another offer. I returned a phone call from one of Herbie's new partners in Brooklyn. "Where are you?" This guy Lou asked. "We got to talk." And I said to him, "I'm in the Dodge plan room," I said. He said, "We got to talk. I'll come over there." "They won't let you in here unless you're a member," I said. "It's over in Jersey." "I know where it is. They'll let me in. They wait for me." Click. A shiver went down my spine. This guy was not to be messed with. They let Lou in the private office and asked me to join him. So he comes into this Dodge plan room. He's not even a member, and they let him into a private office. I had to have a membership, and I get to go into the plan room, not the private office. "Hey, Robert, I hear good things about you. You're a good salesman, clean cut. We could use a guy like yours to sell windows." I said, "Thanks, Lou, but you know, you got to meet the city specs. They won't approve the windows unless you meet specs. The city wants iron, no sheet metal," because I knew about his windows, what he was trying to pan off on people. "Don't worry about it. Just let me know when you have problems. Give me a couple days and you go back, you get proofed." So I'm kind of like shuddering in my boots here. I don't want to argue with a guy. "Okay, can I think about it and get back to you, Lou? Gotta talk this over with the wife." I started to talk like he did. "Okay, kid, don't take too long." He got up out of the chair. All 250 pounds of him disappeared quickly through the doorway. Not only was he bigger than I am, by double, but he moved twice as fast. I heard the manager say, "Goodbye, Mr." as he left. I dragged my decision out. Lou called me several times, and he always seemed to know where I was. I don't know how he knew that. For some reason, he lost interest, and I started taking full breaths. Handwriting on the wall. So the company, Spiral's company's credit was so bad it slowed down deliveries. Herbie tried too many shortcuts, and it cost time, money, and reputation. So New Jersey was shot for me. With a slowing economy and our bad reputation, business tailed off to virtually nothing. 2 jobs were better than one. So I took a second full-time job selling office furniture for a local dealer where I lived in Newburgh. Herbie still owed me thousands in commissions because the system was so far behind. I think he made it that way so he didn't have to pay. So I kept working for Spiral Steel so I could continue my draw against commission. My wife, Rosemary, did her best to bid on jobs from our house. She surprised me a little bit. I secured a few small jobs. Not enough to be really helpful, but I'm not good spy material. Herbie got wind of my 2 lives. I lost all the back commissions and was on the road again. Office furniture. So now I had to work only for the office furniture company. The new boss at the office furniture dealership had issues. Mean-spirited bosses are tops on my list for reasons to quit. So I started to look around so I could make a quiet exit. The town was small. Everyone knew everyone else's business. I was fired for looking around. When I filed for unemployment, Herbie lied and said I quit for no reason. Back in those days, there was reason for panic. I had a wife and 3 children to take care of. So I went further on down in the elevator in my career and took one of the world's worst jobs. Pens and pencils. I sold pens, pencils, paper clips, and legal forms, 12 hours a day. I really needed a knight in shining armor. Then one day a phone call came from Chicago. Chapter 4, Meat Art. Mike from Meat Art had approached me earlier to work for him. He was Italian too. This time I took him up on it. So I go off to Chicago, training in Chicago. It lasted 4 days until my trainer was killed in a knife fight. Your training's over. There was no one else to train me. I hung around for the rest of the week and then picked up my brown Cutlass that they gave me as a sales car and drove it to Newburgh from Chicago. Nice car. I had a big challenge, cover the 9 northeastern states though. I already knew most of the product line pretty well. I'd been selling it for Spiral Steel. I had a lingering feeling of impending disaster in the back of my mind, although Mike and 40 seemed distant since our last meeting. Shortly thereafter, he left the company, so everyone at the company was a stranger to me now. My new sales manager traveled to my home, where I had set up a regional sales office in my newly refinished basement. He made a lot of wonderful promises. I would do all the bidding out of my office with 2 staff people and a microfilm scan machine. I could bid on jobs all over the Northeast without leaving my basement. That was my invention. One time I sat at a bid opening in South Jersey. One of my competitors came in and complained about how he bumped into my bids everywhere he went. I was sitting in the last row, and there were 3 or 4 salesmen that were competitors with me sitting in front. They didn't know who I was. One guy said to the other, "What's this guy got, a helicopter?" I took the lion's share of business everywhere I bid. I knew how to bid. I knew the product. Tony the credenza. So Tony at Meat Art was my second manager. First guy quit. They came and went like revolving doors. He wasn't into the job. Contracts weren't getting processed. Paperwork got lost all the time. I could have lost a lot of business, except I had learned to keep copies of everything. Several years later, I found all the missing paperwork neatly stacked in credenzas in Tony's old office. When he filled up the credenza, he got a new one. Didn't bother with anything they couldn't finish in a couple of hours and took the day off. Whatever Tony didn't get done that day, he locked up in a credenza and left it there. That was his favorite piece of furniture. He just kept buying them. But he didn't micromanage me. At least he didn't let me do what I needed to do. My sales were #1 in the country. I just had to make sure I followed up on everything and stayed within the rules. Rule #1, don't mess with ironworkers. Rules said you could use whatever union made the product to install it. Those rules count for nothing in New York City. Lesson learned at Park Central High School. We tried to go around the rules using the wrong rule. We used sheet metal instead of ironworkers. All of a sudden, we went to Park Central High School job, which I was in charge of. 100 barrels of hardware was spread in a Chex Party mix all over the floor. $20,000 worth of hardware down the tubes. Larry, Moe, and Curly did the job in slow motion. Because when you hired the ironworkers, they went slow just to maximize their income. Estimated cost overruns, $40,000 plus. Commission, 0. All that work for nothing. Now, rule #2, don't mess with ironworkers. From unbridled elation to terror, that's the roller coaster you get on when I outbid the top dog. I bid on the New York City contract for lockers and came out low bidder, fully qualified to enter into contract and jump tenfold into income. I had visions of 6-figure income blasted with one call. They knew all about my wife and 3 boys, what my house looked like, my latest landscaping project, door-to-door directions. I found out Tom, my friend from Spiral Steel, where I used to work, said, "It was either you or me." He spilled his guts, told them everything about me, how to drive to my house, the names of my children. Couldn't blame him. I called the New York State Police to see if I could get some protection. The boys from Brooklyn came to visit me in a big, black Lincoln Town car. They looked like 2 linemen from the Chicago Bears. They dominated the doorway to the restaurant as they came in, and I waited for them in a booth. The state troopers' patrol car circled the parking lot with the bubble light flashing. Lou discussed how one hand washes the other. You know what that means. Then he looked outside and wondered out loud about the circling trooper. I choked on my BLT on toast. Swallowing was hard. "It's on me," Lou said. I shook hands to agree with his philosophy and went home, glad to walk upright through the door and not feet first. The big boss in Chicago told me that his people spoke to the New York people from the union and got them to back off. So I was alive to live another day, so long as they backed off the bid. Miraculous that the city never penalized me for one dime for reneging on my bid. They just backed off. These people have a lot of power. So if you don't degrease the paint will slide off. So that's my next chapter. The company moved to Mississippi to see if it could stay afloat with lower operating costs and non-union labor. Here's ironic. Here's this ironworker guy, mafia guy, taking over the company, and I get into trouble with not using the union. He goes to Mississippi and throws the union out. Bank loans were tied to production, so my Stowe Rocks High School job near Pittsburgh was pushed out the door without going through the degreasing line. Manager said he bypassed the line to save time and money. Really? The installer told me the paint was sliding off the locker doors in one piece, slow motion like in a cartoon. The doors were bare steel now. The corridor floor had hundreds of locker paintings all lined up in a row. Minus $20,000. Loss. $0 in commission. I was working for nothing. I'm surrounded by fools. Medart's lifeline was the federal locker contract. Every year the company's suits went to D.C. to bid on the contract, and every year they got it. Medart had won this contract for years. It was automatic. The cost of tooling and the value of experience was huge, and Medart had the inside track because they'd done it for so many years. They took off for D.C. with bid in hand. Trouble was the new sales manager didn't understand the difference between due dates and opening time. The bid was to be received, was due at 9 a.m., and then open at 11. Guess what time he shows up? His mind was not on business. He had partied all night with a few ladies of the night. Then he missed the deadline, and the company's lifeline was severed. Exit another sales manager. And now our company's facing bankruptcy. Let's make a deal. So Medart's so far behind in sales car lease payments that we were told we had to pay a salesman for the full price for our own sales cars to keep our jobs. Imagine the guy says, okay, we give you the sales car, now you have to pay for it. Mine already had thousands of miles on it for covering 9 states. I called their bluff, but that did not bode well with the next sales manager. I picked up a real nice Chevy Caprice loaded like a Cadillac. More trouble, because that cost less than if I had to pay for the Oldsmobile they gave me. More trouble. Rosemary decided to end our marriage right in the middle of all of this. So 2 things were winding down at the same time. Regional sales manager Lou took me in like a son. He and his wife Joanne moved me into their 2-bedroom apartment in New Jersey like it was the second nature to do such a kind thing. Never did I ever meet such a nice, kind person, and his wife. Never met a couple like that. The pain of the wounds from the double-barreled shotgun aimed at me, divorce and being fired from Medart, and my wife was lessened by their care. The hard part at work was to continue bidding on what I knew was a lost cause. Contractors were shying away from Medart right now, with their history of late deliveries and poor quality. Nevertheless, routine in these times is good medicine anyway, just like in the times of now. Lou hired Huguette Corker from Canada to be my estimator assistant, because I couldn't estimate and be out on the road at the same time. Her abilities were overestimated, her good looks and figure distracting. She was overwhelmed by the idea of learning to read architect's plans. It was a piece of cake. So I put that on the back burner. I soon discovered that she couldn't even do phone work or typing either. I don't know how Lou hired her. When I gave her bids to read over the phone, she started crying, sobbing. They make fun of me name, she said. I empathized. Yeah, okay, contractors can be rude. I listened while she made a call. Hello, this is Huguette Corker. Hello, who is this? They would say. Hello, this is Huguette Corker. Her name is Huguette Corker. She couldn't even pronounce her own name right. Look, I'm busy. Is this a crank call? My name is Huguette Corker. You get what? Oh, sob. What is this? She kept pronouncing her name Huguette Corker with a heavy French-Canadian accent. I told her, say to this, Huguette, just say this is Mrs. C. That would solve the problem. We won't get over the name. She couldn't even read a bid before she started crying. Then she'd go to the corner, put her face in the corner, and start crying more. We have a lot of calls to make, Huguette.